What's going on, guys? This is Ryan with RK Outpost, and evidently the comments made by Kevin Feige about Marvel and the future of Phase 4 MCU, and from Scarlett Johansson about how Black Widow is about the subjugation of women and about equity in the gender debate. Evidently, those things did not have that big of an impact on the opening weekend box office for Black Widow. We haven't seen that impact yet. It's not to say that we can't in the future, but for right now, the numbers that are being reported are very good news for Disney and for the MCU. Take a look at the headline. Box office. Marvel's Black Widow debuts with dazzling $80 million in theaters, $60 million on Disney Plus. Now that $80 million, they're talking about just domestically. Another $80 million is coming internationally as well. This really wouldn't be that much to write home about, but now with theaters where they are, with the box office where it has been in a post-COVID world, it's breaking all the records. It is setting records. Plus, these Disney Plus numbers are insane. And I don't know how much credence I give those Disney Plus numbers, but we got to go with the numbers that they're giving us for right now. We'll talk about why I'm kind of skeptical, because that seems crazy to me. But with Marvel Phase 4 truly pushing into the identity politics, into this narrative, into the MCU, we don't see it have that big of impact, not the impact that a lot of us expected it to have on the opening weekend box office. Disney and Marvel superhero adventure Black Widow captured a massive $80 million in its first weekend, crushing the benchmark for the biggest box office debut since the pandemic. I also will say I've seen this movie. It's not good. It is not good. I think it's a bad movie. I don't think it's like super woke, but there's definitely identity politics in there. And what they did to Taskmaster is embarrassingly bad. This movie's maybe a 4 out of 10. I think that's maybe what I would give it, 4 out of 10 or so. But it's not good, in my opinion. It's really not. The film, starring Scarlett Johansson, is the first from the MCU to open simultaneously in movie theaters and on Disney Plus, where subscribers can rent Black Widow for an extra $30. Disney reported Black Widow generated more than $60 million in Disney Plus Premier Access consumer spend globally, marking the rare occasion in which a studio disclosed the profits made from streaming. That's why I find it so interesting that they did disclose that, because they haven't told us anything about what they make from Disney Plus before. Not for Cruella, not for Raya the Last Dragon. I don't even think for Mulan they actually put those official numbers out there, but they're doing it for Black Widow. $60 million would mean that 2 million people, 2 million households spent $30 on Disney Plus to watch Black Widow. When we look at these numbers that are coming out from streaming, The Tomorrow War, watched by 2.4 million people, a record-breaking number, that's with no additional cost. But you're telling me that Black Widow had 2 million people, 2 million households paid $30 for it? Maybe that's true, and that's what they're reporting. That's all we can go off on. That seems crazy to me. Overseas, Black Widow collected $78 million in its debut in 46 international territories, boosting its global box office haul to an impressive $158 million. Curbing overall ticket sales, however, is the fact that Black Widow still doesn't have a release date in China, which is an all-important market movie for the Marvel franchise. I don't think this movie is going to do great in China, but it will definitely have an impact. Disney didn't share viewership data for Cruella or Raya and the Last Dragon, which also premiered simultaneously. It's unclear if Disney will continue to report it. I think they won't. I think, obviously, they will not continue to do that. And for this movie to make that, you know, when you look at those numbers, you see that it really outdid Fast 9, which had that did set the record domestically for that $70 million opening. It kind of crushed that at $80 million. Plus this $60 million from Disney Plus. So when you mark that up against what we've seen as far as opening weekends, now I do not believe that this chart is adjusted for inflation in any way, shape, or form. It's just what they made. So things back in 2010 and 2014, there's obviously inflation due to that. But just look at the $80 million number. That's above Ant-Man and the Wasp, just below Doctor Strange from 2016. But when you factor in the Disney Plus numbers, and that's obviously not all domestically for sure, but if you factor that in, you're looking at a pretty big number. Thor Ragnarok made $122 million domestically in the box office. Black Widow brings in 80, plus that 60 from Disney Plus. That is a huge number. So are we going to see this continue? That second week is always really the definitive how will this be? How has it been received? What's the word of mouth around this movie? So the second weekend, what kind of numbers are we going to see for the box office for Black Widow? Are the things that Scarlett Johansson has said, the way that they've come out and kind of marketed this movie, the things that Kevin Feige and Victoria Alonso have said. Will we see that impact on the second week of box office? That's yet to be seen. For right now, all this tells me is that Marvel can release a bad movie that should have been released a long time ago, a story that didn't need to be told, and still do well. Which, you know, if you're somebody who is striving for good entertainment and better entertainment, I don't think that's a real positive. Is a positive for the theaters, that theaters are making money again. That is a good thing. Overall, I don't think Black Widow is a good movie. I don't think they even know what kind of story they wanted to tell. It wasn't the story they should have told. And what they wanted to do, I don't feel like was executed very well. And the third act is an absolute disaster of a movie. And what they did to Taskmaster was so predictable. Yet still, they go and destroy one more character to try to subvert your expectations and have a little female power in there. This is Marvel. This is what's happening. Big numbers reported at the box office and on Disney Plus for Marvel's Black Widow. Will we ever get to see those worldwide numbers that Fast 5 is getting with that like $350 million internationally? I don't know if we'll get there, but domestically it's already out doing Fast 9, not Fast 5, Fast 9. Let me know your thoughts about all this in the comments below. Smash a like button, subscribe to the channel, ring the bell for notifications, share this video out there, and I'll talk to you later. Thanks for watching, everyone, and a huge shout out to my patrons. I appreciate you guys so much. Want to follow me on Twitter or Instagram? Check out the description below. You'll find links to my P.O. box and my Patreon as well. And I'll talk to you guys later.